There are two events in everyone's life which are inevitable. One is you were born. Some people, their neighbors may have been hatched, but you were born. And you're going to die. Two events that are inevitable. In between is that process we call life. Everyone's life turns out to be a little bit different. And many people blame what happens to their lives on their past, on their parents, on their environment, on their finances, on the fact that they may have been abused in the past. They just got a bad break. Other people had good luck in their past, but their lives often aren't much different. See, we dwell too much on the knowledge, or a presumed knowledge, of what went on, or what our life is like. We, in the Western world, put a lot of emphasis on knowledge. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. But whenever anything is wrong, or out of sync, or there's a problem, we feel that education is often the answer. And to a point it is. But education and knowledge is not in and of itself the answer to many things. Back in the Old Testament, Solomon wanted help. And he really wanted some help in determining what he would do as king. So he asked God to help. And he said, "Give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern good from evil. For who is able to judge this, thy great people?" Solomon didn't ask for knowledge. He asked for wisdom. Now there's a difference. Look at the dictionary. Knowledge is defined as an acquaintance of facts, truth, or principles. It's the act of knowing. But wisdom is a knowledge of facts, truth, or principles combined with just judgment, sagacity, discernment, or insight. And the problem with us in the Western world is that we want knowledge rather than wisdom. Solomon was granted the wisdom that he wanted. God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much. And Solomon's wisdom exceeded the wisdom of all the children of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt. For he was wiser than all men. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And there came of all peoples to hear the wisdom of Solomon from all kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. 1 Corinthians says that God makes foolish the wisdom of this world. And that is what we, particularly in the Western world, tend to rely on. There's a Dr. Lisa Miller, who's a professor and head of the Department of Clinical Psychology at Columbia University Teachers College, who recently wrote a book called The Spiritual Child. She did research on people, women particularly, who were depressed, and on the children of those women. And the children of women who are depressed have about a 3 to 4 3 times or 4 times likelihood of having depression themselves. However, those women who had a spiritual relationship with their child, especially in the teenage years, there was a 60 to 80% decrease in depression in those children. Now, we have been telling people about education for depression for years, but not in a spiritual sense. The trouble is, we don't teach spirituality. We don't teach the love of God anymore, anywhere. Most people don't come to church. It's not taught in schools. It's not in the government. Therefore, the spirituality is missing from most people's lives. In fact, when this professor brought her results of her research, many people walked out on her and laughed at her. But she persisted. Jesus does heal. Amen. Solomon did not ask for knowledge. He asked for wisdom. Unfortunately, wisdom is lacking in most people these days. It says in Proverbs that the fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. But if you go over to Proverbs 15, it says there, the fear of God is the instruction of wisdom. There's a difference. The beginning of knowledge, but the instruction of wisdom. Solomon was considered to be the wisest of all men. And he was wise because he had the wisdom of God. He said that the beginning of knowledge is wisdom. The fear of God is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of God is the instruction of wisdom. And after all Solomon's life, he came down to say this. At the end of all matter, all has been heard, fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. If this Western world would obtain more wisdom, along with knowledge, it would be a much better place to be in. Just something we all should think about.